What's up, guys? It's Ben here with Tactical Nutrition, where we are cutting through the matrix to be the best versions of ourselves. And we are focusing in on being tactical with our nutrition, meaning we're focusing on the proper macros, the proper nutrients, the proper herbs, the proper supplements, foods, all that good stuff at the proper time, which is why it's called tactical nutrition. So in this video, guys, I want to talk about an interesting, a question that I get a lot of times from clients, and I see this kind of, I don't want to call it a mistake, but it's just kind of something that happens to a lot of people when it comes to working out, and that is, spreading out your protein and your meals throughout the day versus backloading or like front loading everything right after the workout. So we all have heard that there's this window, right after your workout, your weight training workout, where you should consume protein, carbohydrates to refuel your body. And this makes sense. And I generally agree with this. That means if you just did, like, for instance, today I did legs, I did deadlifts, I did a lot of lunges, I did kettlebell swings, large muscle groups, burned a lot of calories, weighted jump rope. And so, in this case, my body requires a lot more food to recover than if I would have just done like arm day, right? So, and that's another thing, is that like you need to modify your nutrition around how intense and what type of workouts you're doing. If you're doing, again, the kind of workouts I propose, which are the compound lifts, big hitters, squats, deadlifts, presses, sprints, things like that take a lot out of your nervous system and a lot out of your musculature, then you should eat quite a bit more on the day of that workout. And you should also backload your carbohydrates the day before. That's one important cue. I learned that before I get into the actual topic here. That is an interesting story, because the first time I hiked Pikes Peak, which, if you guys have ever been to Colorado and you've been down to Manitou Springs, there's a 14er called Pikes Peak. It's 13.1 miles one way. So if you actually go up and down, it's a 26-mile hike. I've actually never gone up and down. There's a train that comes from the top. The main reason being that even if you leave at like 3 a.m., unless you're hustling, and usually I'm with other people and they may not be as in good a shape, but it's very hard to make it down before it gets like pitch black by the time you're getting down. And which, anyone that knows, like, hiking in Colorado, it's just not a smart thing to be out there in the middle of the night. You can get lost and things can happen. You can get injured. Anyway, so the first time I did that hike, I made a mistake. I ate sort of like normally the day before. And so I had a pretty big breakfast before we went for the hike, and I was struggling. I mean, part of it was that I wasn't super acclimated to that kind of altitude yet. I had just moved out there. But another thing was, I realized the second time I went through, I learned my lesson, and I did a big old carb backload, meaning like the day before, I just like, I took the lid off of my macros and just allowed myself to eat whatever I wanted, as long as it had a lot of carbohydrates. I'm not saying you go out and eat whatever you want, like a bunch of ice cream or crap like that, or donuts, but like, and this came when my family came out to do 14ers. I told them the day before, when we went out, when they usually come out a day or two before, I said, okay, the day before, guys, carb up. That means like, we're getting burgers, we're getting French fries, mashed potatoes, rice, potato chips, whatever. It doesn't matter, because when you do a hike like that, you burn through so many of your calorie stores. No matter what happens, you're going to weigh several pounds less when you come down. And that's eating up the entire way up the mountain. So what I did was and this has to do with tactical nutrition. This is one of the ideas. And the same thing goes for, like, if you do like a long endurance run or bike, the day before you carb up. And so your body stores all of that. Plus it absorbs a lot of water, so you become more hydrated. And the next day you're like a camel. You've absorbed all of this fuel, and then the hike was so much easier. I mean, it's still a tough hike no matter how you cut it. but I was like, I had so much more energy and I was doing so much better. So that is one example of the timing that I'm talking about. The day before, carb up. The day before leg day, carb up. Now, you don't have to carb up like you're going to hike Pikes Peak. All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But if you're going to do a really hard leg day, the day before, you should be consuming, it should be a high carb day. Because if you don't eat a lot of carbohydrates and you just kind of skip meals and then you go in there the next day, you might feel sluggish. But what I want to talk about is, there was an interesting study in a book that I read called Fuel for Fitness. I don't think I even have the book anymore. This was about 20 years ago. It was written by a guy named Bernardot, who was the, I believe it was like one of the nutritionists or something at University of Georgia. It was one of the first books on nutrition I ever read. And like I usually say in these videos, guys, I don't really come up with like a printed studies where I can be like, oh, Smith and blah, 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 et al. In 1995 did this with 365, a cohort. No, that's like, if you're interested in what I'm saying, you go and Google it, you go and search it out. I guarantee you'll find what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about spreading out protein throughout the day. So let's say, like, if you look at the video I did before on creating your meal plan, let's say your goal for the day is 200 grams of protein, right? And there is a difference between if you eat 40 grams on 3 different meals and then like have 2 snacks that have like, well, I guess, okay, let's say 50 grams on 3 meals and then 2 snacks with 25 grams apiece. That gives you 200 grams of protein throughout the day. There is a difference between eating that throughout the day and, you know, let's just say you skipped a meal and then you did your workout and so you're like, okay, and then you go out and you have this massive meal that's got like 100 grams of protein and you backload it, right? So like you're hitting the same number throughout the day, but you're not doing it as consistently, and so your body's not going to respond the same. Now, there are people out there, I know, that do what's called cyclical fasting, where they literally eat 1 time a day. And you know what? I've seen results with that. I mean, not myself. I mean, every once in a while, when I used to be a lot more randomized with my nutrition, and I was experimenting on myself a couple times I would try that. Just have one big dinner, like a giant dinner. And I noticed personally, I just don't really like it. First of all, it's a lot for your body to digest at one time. But the idea, what I was going to say is, when you spread the protein out throughout the day, you tend to have more consistent muscle growth and repair, and you're giving yourself more consistent fuel. And so the results are better. So for the most part, it is better for you to spread out your meals and your macros, whether it's fats and proteins and carbs, throughout the day than to try and compile them into 1 or 2 meals. Now, there is one very, very popular nutritional strategy, one that I follow quite a bit actually, which is intermittent fasting, where you only eat, let's say it's a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour eating window. A lot of times it's like you eat between 12 o'clock and 8 o'clock p.m. And then you fast the rest of the time. Now, I will talk about the benefits of that real quick. One thing is, it is very beneficial for you to fast. When you give your body, when your digestive tract has to is constantly working and constantly drawing energy and drawing blood into it. You know, when I say energy, I'm talking about it's drawing blood to the organs to make them work better, right? That's how it works. And so like your digestive tract is constantly absorbing food, constantly digesting food, and it can get worn down a bit. This is why bulking can be really hard. I'm on a bulk right now, and I can already tell that, you know, it's a little bit exhausting on the digestive tract. But fasting is great because when you give your digestive tract time to rest, it'll heal up, it'll become optimized, and it'll allow this energy, aka blood and whatever you want to call it, chi energy, all these things, they're all real, and to go to other places. So for instance, when people do fasting, a lot of times they think clear, they're getting more blood flow to the brain, there's not as much blood flow down here. But I digress. The idea is when the main idea I want to talk about here is when you split your protein up throughout the day, and this is part of the tactical nutrition protocol, is that your body is constantly releasing what's called branch chain amino acids, and just amino acids in general, different assortments, different chains. You don't have to worry about what they are. But again, your blood constantly has like an amount of amino acids that's going through it, right? It's constantly like shuttling. It's constantly shuttling these amino acids among tons of other nutrients around the body to repair cells, repair organs, repair blood vessels, everything. You know, protein is very important for repairing all these tissues. And so your body also senses when it's got BCAA, or amino acids, in your blood. Your body has a knack of being able to sense that. Now, I can't really go into too much detail about where those sensors are, but your body's a very smart thing. It's a very smart organism. So when it senses that there's amino acids, it will tell your body, it's telling itself not to break down muscle, because essentially it's like, if there's amino acids in your blood, then there's no reason why your body needs to break down muscle in order to put amino acids into your blood. I think this makes sense. So when you eat more throughout the day, when you split it up throughout the day, you're giving your body a constant replenishment of these different amino acids if you're eating the right foods, which in my case is a lot of meat. I know there's a lot of vegetarians out there, but you do have to work with it, and you do have to get those essential amino acids and know what you're doing. You can't just eat broccoli and carrots and expect it to take care of itself. Meat is one of the best ways to do this, and eggs and all that. But when your body senses that there's amino acids in the blood, it's almost the same thing in a way as your blood sugar levels. How, like, if your blood sugar levels drop because you haven't, let's just say you haven't eaten for a long time and you're used to burning a lot of sugar, you start to get that, that lightheadedness, and then your body signals using glucagon and cortisol, etc., to shuttle sugar out of the cells into the bloodstream to reroute them to give your body energy. It's the same thing with amino acids. When your body is striving for this homeostasis, where there's a set amount of amino acids in the blood, there's a set amount of glucose, there's a set amount of fatty acids, and everything is kind of working as it should be, then your body's going to react a lot better, and it's also going to spare muscle. That's the key to what I'm saying here, is it's going to spare muscle, meaning that no matter what you do, your body's going to be breaking down a little bit of muscle. It's almost never going to be like 0%. We would love it to be that way, but sadly, it's not the case. It's because your body, again, needs these amino acids to go. If your body needs amino acids, it's going to break down your bicep. I'm just using this as a broad example. It's going to break down your bicep a little bit, get those amino acids into the blood, shuttle them around so that your kidneys and your liver and your digestive tract are operating optimally, because your body cares a lot more about your vital organs than it does about your muscle. So guys, I hope that helps. That's just one more reason to split your food out throughout the day, and be consistent with your protein intake, and don't just backload it and have a huge amount at the end of the day and think that you're getting it done, because it's not the same thing. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Check out www.tacticalnutrition.net. Customized programs. I am writing them. Customized nutrition plans to go with them. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.